Miss Faubert. I have a great story to share with you today. This is called The Big Orange Splot, and it's by Daniel Maness Pinkwater. This is one of my favorite stories. It's been around for a long time. It's kind of silly and very colorful, and a lot of fun. So I'm going to read the story to you first, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to make a really cool project. And the only thing you're really going to need to do it is just one piece of paper. All right, so have fun with the story and I'll see you in a minute. The Big Orange Splot by Daniel Maness Pinkwater. The Big Orange Splot. Mr. Plumbean lived on a street where all the houses were the same. He liked it that way. So did everybody else on Mr. Plumbean's street. This is a neat street, they would say. Then one day, a seagull flew over Mr. Plumbean's house. He was carrying a can of bright orange paint. No one knows why. And he dropped the can, no one knows why, right over Mr. Plumbean's house. It made a big orange spot on Mr. Plumbean's house. Oh, too bad, everybody said. Mr. Plumbean will have to paint his house again. I suppose I will, said Mr. Plumbean. But he didn't paint his house right away. He looked at the big orange spot for a long time. Then he went about his business. The neighbors got tired of seeing that big orange spot. Somebody said, Mr. Plumbean, we wish you'd get around to painting your house. Okay, said Mr. Plumbean. He got some blue paint and some white paint, and that night he got busy. He painted at night because it was cooler. When the paint was gone, the roof was blue, the walls were white, and the big orange spot was still there. Then he got some more paint. He got red paint, yellow paint, green paint, and purple paint. In the morning, the other people on the street came out of their houses. Their houses were all the same, but Mr. Plumbean's house was like a rainbow. It was like a jungle. It was like an explosion. There was the big orange spot, and there were little orange spots. There were stripes. There were pictures of elephants and lions and pretty girls and steam shovels. The people said Plumbean has popped his cork, flipped his wig, blown his stack, and dropped his stopper. They went away muttering. That day, Mr. Plumbean bought carpenter's tools. That night, he built a tower on top of his roof. And he painted a clock on the tower. The next day, the people said, Plumbean has gushed his mush, lost his marbles, and slipped his hawser. They decided they would pretend not to notice. That very night, Mr. Plumbean got a truck full of green things. He planted palm trees, baboas, thorn bushes, onions, and frangipani. In the morning, he bought a hammock and an alligator. When the other people came out of their houses, they saw Mr. Plumbean swinging in a hammock between two palm trees. They saw an alligator lying in the grass. Mr. Plumbean was drinking lemonade. Plumbean has gone too far. This used to be a neat street. Plumbean, what have you done to your house? The people shouted. My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams, Mr. Plumbean said. The people went away. They asked the man who lived next door to Mr. Plumbean to go and have a talk with him. Tell him that we all liked it here before he changed his house. Tell him that his house has to be the same as ours, so we can have a neat street. The man went to see Mr. Plumbean that evening. They sat under the palm trees drinking lemonade and talking all night long. Early the next morning, the man went out to get lumber and rope and nails and paint. When the people came out of their houses, they saw a red and yellow ship next door to the house of Mr. Plumbean. "What have you done to your house?" they shouted at the man. "My house is me and I am it. My house is where I like to be. And it looks like all my dreams," said the man, who had always loved ships. "He's just like Plumbean," the people said. "He's got bees in his bonnet, bats in his belfry, and knots in his noodle." Then one by one they went to see Mr. Plumbean late at night. They would sit under the palm trees and drink lemonade and talk about their dreams. And whenever anybody visited Mr. Plumbean's house, the very next day, that person would set about changing his own house to fit his dreams. Whenever a stranger came to the street of Mr. Plumbean and his neighbors, the stranger would say, "This is not a neat street." Then all the people would say, "Our street is us, and we are it. Our street is where we like to be, and it looks like all our dreams." The end. Hi again. So I hope everybody enjoyed the big orange spot. I love Mr. Plumbean's house. Have any of you ever seen a house that looks like that before? That's a pretty amazing paint job on that house. So this story shows us that everybody's house is different, and everybody's house should be the way that they like it and what represents them. So I'm actually going to show you today how to build a house. That's right, I'm going to show you how to build a house. And you don't need very many materials in order to build this house. You don't need any wood, you don't need any nails, you don't need any cement. All you need for this project is one piece of paper, okay? One piece of paper. We're going to build a house with just one piece of paper. So for this project, you need some paper. It can be any color. It could be white. You need a pair of scissors. You need some tape or a little bit of glue. You need something to add a little bit of color to when you get finished so you can decorate. So either some markers or some colored pencils, something like that to add some decoration. So first thing you need is one piece of paper, and you need the paper to be a square. If you don't have a square piece of paper, I'm going to show you how you can make it into a square pretty easily. So most paper that you use that would be like in a printer are probably going to be a rectangle. So a really easy way to make it into a square without using a ruler and everything is just to take the corner up here and to fold it over so that it meets the side straight. Okay, so just fold it over like that so that it is straight on the side. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this part off down here at the bottom. Okay. That part was down there, and I cut that part off. So now I have a triangle, and when I open it up, it is now a square. So I need a square piece of paper. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this square and we're going to fold it a bunch of times. So we're going to take the square paper, and like I said, you could use any color and any size. but you just need to make sure that it is a square. So we're going to take it and first thing, and we're going to fold it in half. When we fold it in half, now it's going to look like a rectangle. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to fold it in half this way. Okay. When I open it up, now I can see that I have 4 squares on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to draw some lines on here so it's easier for you to see where the squares are. You do not need to do this part though. I'm just drawing the lines on here so it's easier for you to see. Okay, so now I have 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now we're going to fold some more. We need to start at the top again, but this time we're just going to fold it into this middle line right here. Fold that into the middle line, like that. And we're going to take the other side and we're going to fold that part into the middle. Okay, so now it looks just like that. Okay, I'm going to open it up, and now I should be able to see that I have 8 rectangles. Again, I'm going to draw some lines on here so it's easier for you to see what it should look like, but you don't need to do this part. Okay, so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rectangles. Okay, so now we need to fold a little bit more. We need to turn our paper around, and we need to take this side and fold it into the middle. Okay, just like we did before, but in the other direction. So fold that into the middle, and then we take this side and fold it into the middle. So when I get finished now, I'm going to have a whole bunch of squares on my paper. I wonder if anybody can guess how many squares I'm going to have when I open this up now. Okay, I just had 8 rectangles. Now I wonder how many squares I'm going to have. So I'm going to draw some lines on here. I'm going to see if, I wonder if anybody can guess how many squares we would have on here. So if you guessed and you see 16 squares on your paper, you know you are all finished folding. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I need to be able to see 16 squares on there. So yours is going to look more like this because you're just going to see the creases, the lines. You're not going to see these black lines on there. Okay, but I'm just drawing them on there so it's easier for you to see. All right, so that's all the folding we do. So does this look like a house now? I don't know. This doesn't really look like a house to me. So how am I going to make this into a house? Okay, so I need to make a few cuts on here. Just a couple cuts on here. So I'm going to draw a line on here so that you can see where we're going to cut. We need to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cuts. Okay, so I drew some lines on here, and I'm going to need to cut on these lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to cut on those lines. But only on those lines. I'm going to stop right there where the line runs out. Okay, 1, 2, 3 on that side, and 3 on this side. Okay, so I cut right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now that's all that we're going to do. And now I'm going to show you the magic, and we're going to turn this into a house. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to bend it a little bit. And now that we've folded it and cut it, we have these little flaps, these little squares that are kind of hanging out here. So what we're going to do is we're going to bend it over a little bit, and we're going to take these two little flaps that are in the middle, the two that are in the middle, and we're going to overlap them, okay? So I'm just going to take those two little flaps in the middle, and we're going to overlap them, okay? What part of the house do you think this will be? Where it's kind of sticking up and it's a little pointed. All right, so if you guessed that that's the roof, you are correct. So I just took those two little pieces in the middle and I overlapped them and I made that into the roof. And then I'm gonna just take these two pieces that are on the outside here and I'm just gonna make it go on top of that, but I'm gonna just make those go in straight. Okay, so that's all I'm gonna do. The two in the middle, overlap a little bit and get slanted, and the two on the outside, these two on the outside, go in straight, just like that. So then I just need a little bit of tape or a little bit of glue so that that won't move around. All right, just a little bit. It won't take very much for it to stay there. Okay. All right, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to turn around. Remember, we have these 4 flaps. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to take the two in the middle and we're going to overlap them. Just make them go on top of each other, overlap a little bit. And the two on the outside go in straight. Just like that. Okay. And then just a little bit of tape so that it doesn't move around and the house doesn't fall down. And now I've made my one piece of paper into a house, just like that. Okay. All right, so now my house is missing a few things. It definitely needs some decoration. Maybe it's going to look like Mr. Plumbean's house, or maybe you want to have your own design on the house. We definitely need a door on here. You could draw a door on here, but I'm also going to show you a really easy way to make a door that will open and close. So I'm going to draw it on here first so you can see it, and then I will cut it out so you can see what we're going to do. So all we're going to do is we're going to draw a line that goes up and a line that goes over, just like that. A line that goes up and a line that goes over. And then I'm going to cut on those two little lines. I'm going to cut up and then I'm going to cut over, just like that. I cut up and then over. And then I'm just going to bend it. Okay, so now I have a door that closes and a door that opens. Very simple. Okay. And then after that, I can find some markers or some colored pencils and decorate it. I can make some more houses. I can make bigger houses. And all you need is just one little piece of square paper, and you can make a house, or a barn, or a building, or a garage, or anything you want, and decorate it any way you want. So if you want to have a swimming pool on the top of your house, draw a swimming pool on top of your house. So have fun, and I'll see you again soon.